A few days ago, I had a tooth pulled, and it's had me kind of thinking about what would something like that be like if we were in an SHTF. And I don't want to hear anybody say, well, there'll never be a time comes when we won't have access to dental service when we just had it happen in 2020. Um, Someone I know very well is a dental assistant, and her office was closed down for that entire summer by order of the American Dental Association. So even when they did open back up in the fall, they were so backlogged with appointments that it was like a 6 month wait time to get in there. So if you had needed something urgently done at that time, man, that would have been a bad situation. So with today's modern way of doing things, I mean they numb you up so you can't feel that whole side of your face and everything, and then when they're done with it, they send you on your way home with a prescription for a heavy painkiller. But man, imagine having that done without any anesthesia or painkiller available to you. That'd be brutal. And not just the pain, but the just trauma of it. Because I mean, mine it bled for over 24 hours, and I know someone who's had bled for multiple days. So that's what them, they've got all the really good tools to get in there and do it right, so it causes the least amount of trauma to your body. But if you got some guy like me going in there and yanking your tooth out with a pair of rusty pliers, man, you're gonna bleed. It would be just vicious. And if something does go wrong, I could always call up the dental office and get their opinion on things or whatever. I can go to the emergency room or to urgent care. All that stuff's readily available to us now. If you get an infection, they can give you some antibiotics and it's not a problem. But we're talking about an SHTF, you would not have access to any of those services or antibiotics. I mean, I always laugh when you watch like post apocalyptic movies and TV shows where like, oh, someone needs antibiotics. We better go scavenge for some. Like, where are you going to find that stuff? Do you really think years into a situation like that, there's, something that valuable is just going to be laying around for you to go out and find? Come on. This isn't a video game. And some of those antibiotics, once they go past their expiration date, will just become less efficient, right? But there are some that will actually, past their expiration date, become toxic to you and are a danger for you to take. So you just got to assume in a situation like that, there would just be no access to medications or antibiotics. And that's not even mentioning the problem of, at least here in the US, the vast majority of our medications come from India. And a lot of those actually come from China. We've put on sanctions on the China, so we're not willing to take in a lot of their medicines. So the way they get around that is China ships those medicines to India, and then we buy them from India. So it's basically coming from China or India, almost every bit of our medication. So even if there wasn't a complete collapse, if there was some kind of disruption to the supply chain, keeping that from coming here, whatever medicine you need just may not be available to you. That's not that far out of the question. Up until relatively recently here in the US, you could stockpile fish antibiotics like you would put inside of a fish tank to cure any biological issues they're having. And I always kept some of that in the fridge. When you order them, you look at it, it actually came from, those pills would come from Thomas Labs, which is the exact same place that your Walgreens pharmacy gets their same antibiotics from. So it's the exact same human grade antibiotics that you get, but just you can get it for your fish tank without a prescription. and I would keep that and a nurse's drug guide, which gives you like dosing information and things like that about every medication out there in case something happened, that was around. But just recently, the FDA put a kibosh to that. It's no longer legal for them to sell you any of that stuff. So it's the end of even preppers being able to keep antibiotics on hand. The government does not want you to be self-sufficient. That's over. Those days are done. So we got to look at other ways of taking care of ourselves. I look at it as taking care of my oral health from now on is definitely going to be a major priority because I would not want to go through that in bad times. There was one other tooth that had a chip out of it, and she said that we should address that because over time that will rot faster, and I'll end up in a similar situation. So we scheduled a date. We're gonna get that fixed up in that, and I know dental work is pricey, right? I'm paying for this out of my own pocket, so I know it's not cheap. But if I didn't have the cash on hand to take care of it, I would start thinking, well, what can I sell to get the money to do it? Uh, if you're a prepper, I mean, you probably have stuff available that you can sell for the money you need, right? Um, a lot of preppers own lots of firearms, just like myself, uh, or gold and silver. I really love having that stuff, but the point of having it is for if you need it in a bad time, you can sell it and then have the money to take care of what you need done. I mean, going into an SHTF, which would be more valuable to you, do you think? Your 20th most useful firearm or having your teeth taken care of and not having to worry about something as bad as getting the tooth yanked out. I would put taking care of your vision into the kind of the same category too. If you need to wear corrective lenses, make sure you're keeping your prescription up to date. And when you get a new pair of glasses, get extras, get spares. I know again it costs money, but have them there. I mean, if something you can't see, you can't see. That's not a good situation. And I think it's worth it for us to just improve our overall health. So like talking about having no access to antibiotics. If you in a situation like that were to get an infection of some kind without antibiotics, your body is either going to fight it off or you're going to die. I mean, there's not more of a middle ground than that. So obviously, being in poor health is going to reduce your chances of fighting off problems like that. The better health you're in, the better outcome could possibly be for you. And some people talk about like, oh, natural medicines like collecting herbs and making it into poultices for whatever. Sure, I mean, if you got a rash or a little bellyache you want to take care of, I'm sure that stuff will take care of your problem. But you got a bad infection that's going to kill you off, there's none of that stuff that's going to solve the problem. So, I don't know. I think there's a lot of things we can do to just improve our overall health and get out in nature. I find that before I used to have all kinds of seasonal allergies where I'd get all congested and my nose would run for like days on end. And now I'm out in the wilderness all the time, that stuff all went away. It's not a problem for me whatsoever. I have no allergy problems as far as that goes. So get out in nature, get yourself in better health, whatever that means to you. Uh, Perhaps the best prep that we can do going into bad times is being in as good a health as we could possibly be in.